not the blind, we're not the lost. Walked on straight from my bed. We'll never look back. We're not the blind, we are the ones that face the mistakes that we make. We won't turn away. We're not the blind, we're not the lost.
And it's us. Hello. How's everybody doing?
Pretty
Good,
great.
thanks.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Welcome everybody. This is CS:GO Deeper, sponsored by Aperture PC, and we're really happy to be here for 2018. I nearly said 2017. It's gone by so quickly. We're already in the second week of the new year.
Yeah, jeez. Turn around and
Yeah.
I'm still getting messages to ask me, say Happy New Year, and I've been working since last week, so it's kind of like, oh, I forget, sorry, hi.
Oh yeah, are we supposed to do that? Yeah.
Merry
Exactly.
Christmas while we're at it.
Merry Christmas while we're at it. So, of course, to just introduce ourselves, I'm Extremes. I'm your host. CS Greetings, CSGO. The traditional greeting from my side. With me is Profeci, usual partner in crime. And then, of course, at the end, we've got Wham, a partner in crime. We have been Wham on a few occasions, casting for ESL Africa. We've worked quite a lot of broadcasts together, and I'm really excited to have you on the show finally.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. It's exciting. Nice start to the year. I love it.
Indeed, and you're also an analyst for Energy Esports as well, and they had a tremendous year last year. So I think there could be a few awards boxes being ticked with you here to accept said awards. Maybe.
I'll take 1/1,000,000th of the parcel for them, just to carry it untouched and sealed in a nice gold envelope. But everything has to go to those guys. I can't even explain what they did last year. I don't even know how to explain it. I just sat there in awe, screaming when I was behind any person.
Yes, indeed. Well, I mean, you did quite a good job of getting them going, especially in those finals. That game versus Limitless in the semi-final, where you guys were behind as well. That was super exciting, and I think that game almost won you guys the championship in a lot of ways, because it was a sort of a fight back against adversity. You guys came from behind, won the game, and then went against Bravado and just stood all over them.
Yeah, it was almost a nice wake-up call into the finals. They always say when you're in your major finals games or your final tournaments, you don't want to peak at the wrong time. And I think we peaked at a perfect time, putting ourselves under pressure, or the team had a massive amount of pressure on themselves, having to perform against an international team, first time in South African shores. And well, they proved it, and then decided, well, that was all we needed to do. Now we know where we're at.
Yeah, it was a fantastic thing. Energy champions, the inaugural champions of Africa, and you were involved with it. And I mean, you cast it at the tournament too. You were a busy man.
Running around as always.
Indeed, indeed. So, again, thanks to everybody who's joined. Good to see all of you guys, and I'm sure more people will join as we go, because we always seem to catch more people towards the 20-minute mark for some reason. So, I don't know. Maybe they just don't want all the introductions. We know who you are already. Let's just get on with it. So, I think let's actually get on with it. I'm going to give you guys an idea of what's coming up on tonight's show. So coming up tonight, we've got the news, the week in CSGO that we'll tell you guys all about. So go into all the details of all the highlights on Reddit and HLTV and all those sorts of things. Secondly, we're going to go through the E-League New Challenger stage, which is basically replacing the qualifiers part of the major. So that's something that's happening on Friday, and we're going to do a little bit of a preview about it. We'll do a full preview on the major next week sometime. And then we're going into the thing that you guys are probably for, the South African CSGO 2017 Awards, as presented by CSGO Deeper, completely subjectively with our opinion, and if you don't like it, too bad. That's coming up in a little bit, so look out for that, coming your way. So, guys, I think maybe we'll start with a bit of news as I've just outlined there. But is there anything you guys want to say before we hit the headlines?
Not really. I mean, it's what can you say? It's halfway through January and we're already cranking up the CS:GO year. So I mean, hopefully SA gets a piece of the action, because we've been left out of the international a little bit, and it looks like we might be getting a little bit more this year.
Yeah, indeed.
I think,
you first?
I think so too. I think, 2018 is something that South Africa, well, I must admit, I'll go back to 2017 and how we were looking at the growth potential for what 2017 was going to do in general for esports, never mind the release of PUBG, the expansion into China for CSGO, all the different elements, how League of Legends has attempted to, obviously went into India, they came to South Africa and then rejected our servers. So that kind of element pushed us back in certain areas. But I also think that 2018 for South African teams, already, like you said, Sean, is that Profeci, we're on a point where South African teams are now getting involved more, so much that we're gearing up to WSG, South African people qualifiers, so that WSG people already in China. So it's going to be huge for South Africa this year.
Indeed.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's start off with some South African news, actually. I mean, I didn't put it on the script because I actually completely forgot about it. There's all this international stuff going on. But as you mentioned, there's WSG qualifiers coming up through Medal State. So guys need to look out for that. I think the closing date for the registrations was sometime pretty soon, actually. Maybe it might have been this week. So
Yeah, the event starts next week, Friday.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
I think it was either yesterday or today. Was the final day for registration.
So if you guys haven't done it already, you might already be too late, or maybe you're just on time. I don't know. Have a look at that. We should have probably checked, but that's coming up. That's big. There's also the Crucial Ballistics Masters coming up as well. I think registration's closed for that on the 24th of January. I do remember that number for some reason. But yeah, that's coming up as well. And then I think DGL starting in February as well. We've probably got ESL coming in a few months as well. So there is definitely stuff happening this year, and it should be an even bigger year than last year. And the biggest year in South African esports that we have ever had in any esports was CSGO last year, and this year's going to more than likely be bigger. So definitely lots to look out for there. In terms of the international news, let's actually hit a little bit of that quickly. So
Sorry, Mark, Extremes.
yeah.
I have got the closing registration date just for those that aren't
Oh, you
interested.
do?
It's
Okay,
actually
good.
Yeah, it's actually the 16th.
So 2 days
It's 2
before
days
it
before
starts.
the event. Yeah.
Wow, okay. Quite in the same form as most international competitions, I guess. So that's not too bad, actually. I'd be pretty happy with that. I mean, ESL were a little bit crazy closing it sort of the morning of kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I'm glad it's not quite to sort of that level, but at the same time, I think that's plenty of time. Guys will be okay with that. So the thing to look out for, of course, is the WSG APAC finals, and in that tournament, which is happening this weekend, we had Elite Pro playing this past weekend. Let me actually switch to the browser view so guys can have a look at this. There we've got it. That's the event happening in China, and most of those male teams I don't really recognize. I recognize Chosen 5, the team from Jordan who played against Carbon, beating them last year at WSG Dubai and losing very convincingly to Bravado. And that's the only name there, and MVP project, but it's not the same team that was playing last year in sort of tier 2 events. And then we got Boot as well, and everybody else don't really recognize any of those male teams. So I guess we'll have to wait for the proper final stage coming in March. From a female's point of view, we had Elite Pro playing against No Idea today, and well, it didn't go so well for Elite Pro there, unfortunately.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the ladies did get knocked out. I think it was 2-0, 16-7, and 16-12. I think it was, yeah.
Yeah,
It's unfortunate, but at least they posted quite a comfortable score to say that it wasn't a whitewash, which is really what you want to avoid on your first major kind of travel trip. And at the same time, they at least held some heart. I was watching it towards the end of that cash map. I mean, after going 16-7 down, knowing you could get knocked out now, you put a lot of heart in to try and get those extra rounds, especially after going 3-12 down in the first half of cash.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, Shaz did have probably just a nightmare series, unfortunately, and they I think really needed her to just help out a little bit, and with her not there, I think that fell on the rest of them, and maybe girls just overcome a little bit with the being on stage for, I'd guess, the first time for a couple of them, and unfortunately just not going through. So it's a pity, but it's valuable experience. They come back to South Africa, and they've been overseas. I'm sure they've scrimmed a couple of the teams over there. They learned a couple of new things, so bringing some information back.
indeed, it definitely wasn't the result that we were hoping for. We're kind of thinking, hey, they got Shaz, the secret weapon. It's going to be smooth sailing, right? But I think that was sort of the mood I saw on social media, but not to be, unfortunately. Still, they did okay. I'm sure the next time they get an opportunity like this, they'll do a little better. And I think we also should do well to remember that the team is pretty new. They might have beat Energy Finesse, who are an established female team, but Elite Pro is actually really new, and 3 of those 5 players are pretty inexperienced as far as I'm aware. So it's going to be a learning experience. So I don't think it's anything to really get down on them or be negative or anything. And they got a great trip to China, got great exposure, and hopefully next time they'll kick the Taiwanese in the teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, let's hope so. So the other thing to have a look at would be AGO winning the Mountain Dew LAN, which happened this past weekend. And in the sense of that, I mean, it's interesting to me in that it was a tournament that South Africa was at this time last year. Bravado were there. They beat TSM at this very tournament. Unfortunately, we're not playing in it this time around, and we had Space Soldiers versus AGO. Everybody reckons Space Soldiers is going to win, and AGO won, so trash tournament. Moving on. But I mean,
AGO is another one of those pack of Polish teams behind Virtus Pro that they show some skill, but then they just never go anywhere after that.
Yeah, it seems like the second tier in Poland is really like a non-existent thing. You don't really ever have a good team behind Virtus Pro, and Virtus Pro isn't even good right now. So it's good to see that a team from that region has actually won a fairly large tournament. But again, Space Soldiers should have put them away, because Space Soldiers, are a substantially better team. And I mean, Bravado were put to the sword a couple times by Space Soldiers in 2016. So
the problem with Space Soldiers is that if you look at how they play, they kind of do that. Like, if they realize that you can't hang with them, they just get ultra aggressive. The problem is when they don't know how to, or when that doesn't work, they kind of have no secondary option, and they can actually get blown out pretty badly against some of the better teams. So I think Space Soldiers is they certainly have a lot of good aimers, but I don't know if they're capable of really doing huge damage at the higher levels with the current team that they have.
Yeah, fair point. You're sitting in the dark, man. It's gotten really dark at your side.
It is getting pretty dark. I'll go turn on the light.
Looking at him was actually why I suddenly realized, hey, I should just check that my light's actually on. So
I was thinking at the same time, and whether if I should get up now while he's speaking, or if I should just sit in between. But I want to agree with you completely that Space Soldiers have got that mentality that when they are finding that they just outperforming the team in certain elements, they just come crashing down. Almost how Bravado took their approach for the 2015 and 16 year, where as soon as they realized that there was no no real resistance coming back more than a player or two dropping, they would just come and bulldoze straight through the middle. They wouldn't even worry about a full strategy, rather just take control of the map and see where they can get exposure to individual little peaks, which is what obviously you start resulting in. AGO in this case just ended up resorting to the reverse mentality and let them come at them and make sure that they make the first error.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. It is a real shame that we didn't see Bravado or any South African team, Energy, whoever, actually at the tournament, because it was a tournament that it was possible to qualify for in the past. So, I mean, that's a major negative, I think, for ESEA this year. But let's hope that with more people playing pugs, more people using ESEA, and the successful running of the tournaments recently, let's hope it changes.
Yeah,
I just hope ESEA decides to allow South African teams back at MDL, because that was a large part of why so many teams signed up for. I think it was season 25 that they changed it, or was it season 26? I forget. No, it was season 25. And then they were like, because 24 we got to MDL, and then 25 they were like, after everybody registered, they were like, and we're not inviting you guys to MDL anymore. Like, wait, what? Well, why now? You could have told us this like a month ago. But
you just hear that sort of buzzer. No, you're just not getting the opportunity. It's kind of a shame, but hey, let's hope it changes, as you said. So, other huge news this week, massive news. Has anybody heard of a player called Shara?
Yeah, he used to be on.
He was in Flipside.
He used to be on Flipside very long time ago, and he was a very, very bad player.
Yeah, he was bad, but he's in a super team now, guys. He really is. No, he's
one
not.
of those budget phase teams that are so budget, like kind of buy them with change in your back pocket.
Yeah. No, not really. I mean, putting it up on HLTV, you can see a few names you might have known before. Spike, people might also know he was on Hellraisers before. And no, they're really not a super team. But there is this particular clip which I think is rather wonderful, guys. Oh man, sorry.
I love how his team just like looks at him like, okay,
not again.
Oh my word, I had to laugh at that. That was just great. It was. And that clip, I'm pretty sure it was in Eagle's best of 2016 video as well. It was just one of the best things. It's because I also remember seeing another montage where it's like Shara falls out of Flipside, kind of thing, which is great.
That's as part of the bloopers as well. There's like 15 minutes of bloopers between the talent and players, and they still put the player as part of the talent, because you should have seen the casting booth and the panel desk when he fell, and how they just froze and look at him, and while they're still carrying on in the panel, they're looking at him falling. It was hilarious.
Yeah, that whole "Jesus, you okay?" it is just one of the worst things. Shame, poor guy.
Getting in there.
Poor guy. I mean, I probably shouldn't have highlighted that, but couldn't help it. Just couldn't help it. Also happening this week is we've learned that Device will indeed be playing at the Major, which I think is actually pretty big news, because if it was Zonic playing at the Major, Astralis' chances go down significantly. They won the last E-League Major in Atlanta last year. This one's in Boston. So having Device back gives them a good chance. It just depends on how good he will be or won't be. Astralis fanboy, Prof, tell us.
Well, I mean, we don't know how much he's actually been practicing, and that's just the worry, is because we still don't really know what actually is his issue. There's people that's saying that it's a form of hernia, but I mean that's just Reddit, so
what do they know?
Like, we don't actually know what was wrong with him. So if that impacts his ability to practice, we don't know. I think that, like, in general, it's definitely a massive upgrade over Zonic, but he could also be coming in undercooked, and how undercooked is he? We don't want an Olaf Meister or a Guardian type situation where he's basically just dead weight by the time they actually get to the business end of the tournament.
Yeah, you got some thoughts there, Wham?
No, I agree completely. I think that also with the expectation of how Astralis performs with Sonic rather than with Device himself, it's a pressure that's going to be put onto him to perform regardless of how much he's actually had the exposure to the team morale and where they can go up and down. And like you say, the results that they've had in the past without him has just put additional pressure on the team to actually win and do something now. So yeah, I can't really disagree with that. I think that Device is going to be put under pressure on the spot, but he's proved before that when he's been put on the spot, he really can perform, and he's pulled clutches out that we've never seen before from others. So
Indeed, and then there's the retards who like to claim that, oh, Dennis was so good at last Pro Series, he should play instead of Device. Fuck off.
once off
Yeah,
wonder.
sorry.
One of wonder.
Yeah, I mean it's not nice to say that, but at the same time, it's just it was great. They had a wild card element at the tournament because they weren't playing their usual style, and that's going to throw your opponents who know how you play off quite a bit, but it's not going to work long term. You know, a consistent performer who drops 2 kills every single round in every game except the final, because that's how Device operates, is the guy that you want at a major. It just is.
Yeah.
Actually.
So I hope I don't get banned from my own chat for potty mouth by our intrepid admin, Mr. Andrew Hodgkinson. Do appreciate you being here. Shout out to you, Andy. You may also find him as the Penguin ZA on Twitter. Sometimes
Just
costs
for purposes
CS.
of information, he's moved into Port Elizabeth, so he's my neighbor now.
Oh, look at that, eh? Okay, well, that's an interesting one. And another thing that's an interesting one is the broadcast team for the E-League Major was released. And on this one, there was a little bit of controversy with a few people just because they were expecting more people. You know, usually with the Major, it's a massive broadcast lineup. And yeah, it's sort of somewhat pared down a little bit. And there's a little bit of crying about it on Reddit.
Apparently, this is only for the first stage though, because I think nothing.
I was going to mention that.
He'll be part of the group stage, so we don't actually know 100%. There's apparently more people coming, but yeah, it does look a little bit light if you're going to be running the whole event with just that group of people.
Like
Yeah.
some voices.
Shame, those guys are going to be working hard, but we got some good names. I mean, you guys can go to HLTV and read it. We don't need to read it to you. But
Also the same time as the first event, we're going to see Semler going all the way through to Overwatch rather than being on CS as a main role.
yeah, I started yesterday actually. Last night or today. I mean, I guess it was today because it was early hours of our morning, but it was yesterday in America's terms. So that was an amazing show, by the way. I mean, I'm not an Overwatch fan by any means, but I watched it anyway, and amazing production. They've definitely made the game easier to watch as well, which helps. But
Thankfully.
yeah, geez, it's still chaotic, but nothing touches CSGO. I mean, CSGO is one of the cleanest esports to watch in terms of as a layman walking in and going, hey, I can understand what's going on pretty quickly. So that is why we love it. Deceptively simple, amazing depth below the surface, and of course the amazing skill that you can very easily see. Whereas in a game like Overwatch, it's sometimes freaking hard to figure out what is skill and what is an ulti. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Taking shots at other esports, that's my way. So moving on, let's talk about the E-League Major Boston's new Challenger stage. And for guys that don't know, the this particular part of the Major is what used to be the Major Qualifier, which would happen a little bit before the Major. Now it's happening at the same event, essentially. They've sort of squished it together. These guys all get stickers as well. So that just means a little bit more money for those teams, which I think is a good thing. It means some smaller teams can develop a little bit more, get a bit better in regions that maybe don't have representation. So it's great. It just kind of dilutes the early stages of the Major a little bit because you're going to see some really unbalanced matchups here as well.
On the other end, though, it is nice for the teams to be able to have something that is more related to crowdfunding. I mean, Dota obviously being one of the major events that can get crowdfunding in for the teams to make it beneficial for even if not winning, but making your way all the way there. Some teams don't have that amount of sponsorship that actually covers absolutely everything. So when it comes down to it, it really is a nice element for those teams as well to take a memorabilia away from the event.
Indeed. Sorry, Sean.
No. I was just gonna say, yeah, that is, it does dilute it a bit, but it does also help the smaller teams, getting there, and it gives them, I think, a tiny little bit more incentive to play. I mean, that shouldn't be the reason why they're actually playing. It's because you're a competitor and want to actually play CS type thing. But I do think that Wham has it correct there, saying that the crowdfunding aspect does help quite a bit for those little teams.
Yeah, indeed. So let's move over to a little browser view here again, so you guys can see what we're talking about. There's the pools that are going on. Of course, this is a Swiss system, so I'll actually let Prof maybe explain that. I'd like to throw you on the bus sometimes, Prof. But looking at the names, there's some really familiar names, and there's some names that are going to be unfamiliar. The one team that I want to particularly laugh at is Sprout, because it includes Speedy and Dennis. So
I knew you were going to go there.
so. Prof, do you remember what that subreddit is called? Is it called Dennis, our Lord and Savior, or the Dennis?
No, it's Reddit/the_Dennis.
Yes,
with one
okay.
N.
If you want to laugh your asses
And-
off, go there.
Yeah, and their mortal enemy is Nico.
Because
Nico destroyed Dennis apparently, or something like that.
yeah, broke him. He was broken before, but we got a few names. We were talking about Space Soldiers. They there as well. Envious are there, Liquid, Cloud9, Flipside, G2, Navi, FaZe. I mean, there's some good names there. So we're going to inevitably see some good quality matchups. But if we look at the first round matchups, the first one, Vegas Squadron versus Renegades, you should say Renegades should take that. We've got Mousesports versus Avangard, which is a team out of Kazakhstan. And unless all 4 of the Kazakhi players on that team are all hobbits, I don't see them beating Mousesports.
No.
And then we got...
Especially because of like the way Mousesports plays, I think they got quite a few. Like they have some heavy aimers. They're like that's the kind of team that someone like Oscar will just go ham against, and there's nothing that Avangard can really do to stop him.
Yeah, I don't see it. Then we got FaZe and Liquid have got to be wondering what they have to do to go to a tournament where they don't get utterly wrecked in the first round, basically, because it seems to be a running theme with them, and they're playing with Zeus, their coach, as a stand-in. I don't feel good for them based on that, and their chances in the tournament overall take a little bit of a dip just by getting a start like that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like they probably almost certainly will lose to FaZe, but they get into the next round. Maybe they get an easy draw there with maybe that's where they get an Avangard or whatever, and then they can just pick up a couple of wins. So I think if their luck holds in that they're going to get like FaZe, Navi, and G2, yeah, then they're probably going out. But I think with FaZe giving them the loss in the first round, it'll probably just make their lives a little bit easier. And I think they will make it to the major, but they won't win that first game, not by a long shot.
What do you think there, Wham?
Yeah, I disagree actually. I don't think that they're going to make it through, but that's also because of the fact that they haven't had that performance that they've been looking for. I think they're trying to put themselves under a lot of pressure to get into that level. Obviously, when you've got Cloud9 as your competing nation of a team that's with you in events, you're always trying to get to the same level but improve because you're playing on the same servers. You're playing in the same qualifiers, you're playing in the same regions. But so I just feel that when it comes down from JDM and Elige, they just, if they aren't firing all cylinders when they're split across the map, and the way that the team structures their plays together, I just don't see them right now being in a place to make it all the way through. And if they do it to the qualifier or to the major, I think that they'll end up being knocked out very easily if they maintain the same pattern.
Yeah, I hear you on that. That's my worry as well, but it could very easily go the way Prof's saying it as well. The thing with Swiss system is it does make it a little difficult to see where the way things are actually going to shake out, because essentially you're just going to get put against people who have the same results from the previous round as you. So every time a round goes past and a win and a loss goes on, then it just reshuffles everything again until you get that magical 3 wins you're through. If you lose 3 times, you're out. So that's the layman's terms version of it, but it does make it quite tricky, and we do see some really interesting things happen as a result of it. The last major, in a lot of ways, that Gambit won was what helped them a lot was actually those group stages working that way as well. So let's see how it shakes out. But the next guys we'll talk about is Flipside Misfits. Flipside, one of the teams that have never missed out on the major. Markelov has played at every single one, and Misfits have been looking good lately. So that one actually, I'd say that could go either way, because Sean Gears' team has looked good lately, and Flipside do not have Electronic anymore, so we don't actually know. They weren't fantastic before, but they made majors. Are they significantly worse without him?
They have seized though, and I don't like the last time I saw seized, he was terrible.
He was bad, yeah.
I'm going to lead Misfits way. Although Blade is usually known for, pulling out some really sneaky stuff to get into a major. So he's had a lot of time to prep his team, so they should be coming in fairly well oiled. But I just think Misfits probably has their number in terms of form at the moment.
Have you seen
Yeah.
much of Misfits, Wham?
Not too much, not of late, especially. I've always heard the names popping up and watched a couple of VODs and just gone back to see how their structure format goes. Because also with this type of game, exactly like Prof was saying with Flipside, I think it's Flipside have come to very many events, like you were saying, Markelov's never missed an event basically. And when it comes down to it, they're often producing nice results early up, but when it comes down to the pressure points, they're not able to do anything. And Misfits at this point, I say I haven't seen too much of them of late, but when it comes down to the flip side games, I've never seen them progress past that point of anybody's expectation. So I still think Misfits may just take it based on the name branding and their current positioning.
Yeah, Shazam's also playing really well on the AWP at the moment. And that didn't happen 2 years ago, but he's looking good now. And the two French imports, they've got Amanek and Devidovic, which is a fantastic tongue twister if you're really drunk.
Yeah.
Try say that fast. They're looking good as well. So it's possible for them, but I don't want to discount the flip side major Mojo that seems to just show up somehow, and they always make it there. So let's see what happens. I'd say first round, yeah, Misfits should win this game, but I'd still feel like Flipside should make it through somehow. But let's see. Then we got Sprout up against Space Soldiers, and Space Soldiers will make Dennis's capital D name turn to a small d, because that's how much they're going to beat him down. It's just his name will be laid low, even though it's already low. And of course, Speedy's name just it doesn't echo in any of the hello chambers of CS:GO anywhere in the world. So I don't see it. They're not going to beat Space Soldiers.
Yeah, I think Space Soldiers going to wreck them. It's not going to be like 16-2 or something, but Space Soldiers will win comfortably there, I think.
Indeed.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think Space Soldiers as well have got such an exposure to different events, and the way that they've come from places where they were really not great at all at one point, and they just showed so much potential, and they just maintained it. And like you say, Sprout, well, when Dennis has got his own threads going around, then you know.
He's got a whole subreddit, man. I mean,
Exactly.
and it's worded so that you'd think it's in praise of him, but really it's wrecking him. So it's fantastic. Then we got Navi versus Quantum Bellator Fire, which is a wonderfully lofty name for the Russian team, but they're going to be laid low by Navi. Moving on, G2 versus Flash. Flash are the replacements for Tai Lu, who didn't come because their coach wanted more money, essentially. Their ex-coach wanted more money to be a stand-in for their player who didn't get a visa. It's very complicated. You can probably find out more information about it, but it's a stupid situation. Flash brought in at the last moment, and they're also playing with a stand-in because they couldn't get visas for their players because they're from China, and of course that means you can't get visas to America. So messed up.
Yeah, and they only found out. Yeah, I mean the problem for Flash here is that, like, even if they were a good team, which they aren't, they only found out that they were playing at the major a week ago. Like, show me any team that can just, like, after with a week's prep, rock up at an event and do well when you're already, like, not even the number one team in your own country. So it's really, really rough. And I mean, getting G2 in the first round, that should be an easy win for the Frenchmen, I guess. But you never know. You never know. It is the French.
Yep, they could bottle it. I mean, they do that.
Too many soccer World Cup evidence.
Yeah, too many major European conflicts where the French inevitably surrender. So, I mean, that's also happened. So then the last match we got then in the first round, Cloud9 versus Envious. How do you see that going, Wham?
I'm still going to go with Cloud9. They're some of my favorites. I was up at that Cologne, the ESL Cologne in July last year, and that's when Cloud9 obviously played up against SK, and they just showed so much valor, and the crowd is so much behind them. Doesn't matter which country they are in the world, it's somebody that's been followed, or a team itself and a brand that's been followed so far, that I just feel that they have such a strength when going into events, especially first round. Look, don't get me wrong, they're playing against NBS, so NBS can pull all sorts of things out, and especially when you've got Happy and Scream that can cause rifts in your own team. It can be difficult, but at the same time, that I think with Skadoodle, Automatic, Stewie, I don't see NVS really taking it at the moment.
I would say that the win condition for Envious is that RPK continues to be God mode, but surely he can't be God mode for a full year. I don't think they have enough in the rest of the team.
Yeah, that's what I
I-
say. Happy and Scream, sorry, need to come to the party and do things, because without that, then they just have one player really relied on for the whole way through.
Yeah, Scream definitely has to pitch. He's been too bad for too long for the level of player that he can be. So Envy desperately needs him to pitch up. But yeah, I think Cloud9's going to take this. They've just looked good for what they are, but they've rarely ever been like legitimate, like danger team to win a tournament. Like they'll make it to like quarters and semis, but you'd never really bank on them to actually win a tournament. So I think they have more than enough here to beat Envious.
Yeah, should be the case. So can sort of brand it as the battle of bad Orpers, basically, because we got Sixer and we got Skidoodle. I mean, two guys who've not been having a good time of it for some time. Skidoodle has the occasional flash of, oh yeah, I remember why he was so well regarded in the past. But yeah, I don't think the Orp's going to be a major factor here. I mean, Happy these days is picking up the Orp instead of Sixer. It's gotten so bad. So, oy vey, one would say. So this the major. This section of the major, the new challenges stage, is going to go on until the 15th. So it starts on Friday the 12th until the 15th, happening in the studios in Atlanta. So not going to be the big crowd thing yet. It's going to be kind of the traditional, familiar E-League sort of in-studio setting. That's what's happening. And, I mean, if we look at this, if we make a top 8, I'm going to just pull out some names and you guys tell me whether I'm right or wrong. So I reckon Cloud9, Mouse Sports, Liquid, Flipside, Envious, G2, FaZe. That's 7, right? Or did it?
Yeah.
Navi.
Ooh,
I
I'd
don't think
I'd put
Flipside's
Renegades in there.
Yeah, like I don't think Flipside's making it through.
I want to believe in
I
Markelov,
think-
man.
I think it's like Flipside's spot is going to either be Misfits or Renegades, depending. And if Envy drops out, because that is a real possibility if they don't get their house in order, I think like it's between Renegades, Misfits, and maybe Space Soldiers to spring an upset and get the last spot in the major. But I think Renegades probably best suited at the moment to make it there.
So we're actually not quite clear on who exactly is going to make it, and that makes it exciting, right?
Best part, hence the major.
Well, it makes it exciting when we get to day 3, because on day 1, there's not that much to be excited about. But
True.
Yeah.
so let's see how it shakes out. But it's interesting to see. Let's see if this format actually brings some excitement to the major, or if it just drags it out and sort of diminishes it. And I'm hoping that won't be the case. I'm hoping it's going to actually add to the overall experience. 24 teams, make it a little bit more exciting. So look out for that on Friday, guys. And moving on, we're moving on to the bit that you're probably here for and that you've been waiting for all this time, and we've just been talking and talking and talking for nearly 35 minutes. So I don't apologize, because we needed to talk about that stuff. But it is the South African CSGO 2017 Awards on CSGO Deeper, sponsored by Aperture PC. And a full disclaimer here first. This is our opinion. It's subjective. There are obviously objective numbers involved in some of these things and figuring them out and deciding. But in the end, it still comes down to us deciding, and that means it's subjective. So if you disagree, it's cool. You know, you can debate that. Just don't flame us for it. And if you do want to flame us for it, piss off. That's really how I feel about that. So do you have some healthy debate about it? That's fine. You don't have to agree with us. It's good that we debate in South African CS, but let's not flame each other if we disagree. Let's have a conversation. So, sound off in chat, see what you guys think, and let's hope that you enjoy it, because that's ultimately what we're doing the show for. Bring a little bit of information to you, a little bit of opinion, and hopefully enjoyment. So let's see how it goes, guys. South African CSGO Deeper 2017 Awards. And first category, this one is pretty easy. Sean, would you be so kind as to present this one for us?
What, the Ghost Award?
Yeah, the Ghost Award.
Yeah, definitely a
The
Profeci
Ghost Award.
award.
Well, I mean, I think this is an award that should be pretty fun. It's going to go to Smithers, because unfortunately the young man constantly qualifies for tournaments and then somehow magically doesn't appear at them. So we have heard that apparently he once attended a LAN, but we haven't seen it in the last year. Despite destroying everybody online, he somehow is never able to make it to a LAN. So It is it's not really the award he wants to win, but I think it is at this point well deserved.
Okay, well, round of applause to Smithers for winning the Ghost Award there. Evidence of that he was actually a LAN is actually on my stream from, was it yesterday or the day before when we played with Kron? He actually attended a LAN with Smithers. He was the guy who was telling us he has actually met him in real life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to actually find that evidence, Cash with Kron, go look at the VODs. You'll be able to find that it does actually exist. So the other one that we can probably bring out here is the Hero to Zero award, which should be pretty fun. Let's just make sure that my player actually wants to work, because that's a thing, of course, always with Twitch. I do apologize if the stream decides to slightly break when I do this, because streaming from Twitch and streaming to YouTube at the same time, for whatever reason, utterly wrecks one's connection. So let's hope this works. So we got video clip open. Are you guys ready to go with video clip?
Yep.
Yep.
Cool, here we go.
Yeah, that's a problem. I mean, going up against Bravado, you need to be firing on all 5 cylinders.
Like a Volvo. Or an Audi TT RS.
Do they only have 5 cylinders?
Yeah, usually.
Ah.
Sonic doesn't worry about smoke.
See, that's why I love casting with you. Sorry to interrupt. You've always got just that random interesting fact, whether it's about the guns or what car has 5 cylinders, you're there to give the knowledge. Bravado still just hammering damage control, taking out 3 players with only taking 21 points of damage in return.
Sonic is in a bit of trouble here, and Explicit, how does Sonic not react to him there? He hears him shooting.
And JT should have called that instantly as well. Explicit able to get the transfer. He's found 4 in this 1 versus 5 all of a sudden. Reduced to Scent. Out of all players, the one man to salvage the situation here.
This is the hero moment, right?
This could be one of the most insane clutches
Should
we've
be.
ever seen. All boiling down to Sonic not reacting.
I like how Matt is saying this
Maybe it was
is,
just the timing of the flash that had actually dulled him to hearing that.
you know, one of the Hero to Zero moments. It's like one of the biggest clutches ever. He's building it up beautifully,
Catches the timing.
and he has the moment.
This could be pretty bad for Explicit.
Oh,
my
no
word.
ways. He's gonna
Explicit misses the shot. He whiffs. How does he allow that to happen? He drops him low. Centers on 22 HP. Explicit on 34.
Oh
This
my
just
God.
seems crazy.
What is going
how
on?
are both players alive? What is happening here?
Yeah, Sen should have been dead a long time ago. Explicit not forcing the issue. He's even scared to plant the bomb. He's like, what is going on here? He's even probably pretty upset with himself, considering he had an opportunity to close it out. Sen! Oh my God, he does it. How does that happen? Explicit is going to be kicking himself after missing
Oh, my
such
word.
an easy opportunity to close out that 5v1.
Oh, that is so great. Oh my word, that was just wonderful. I watched it again a couple times recently, and my word, that whole situation, because you see that moment where he thinks, oh yeah, I've got a nade, I've knocked him low, and then he fluffs the nade, and then he starts planting in a molly. It's just like you can see all the cogs have like just broken, you know.
CSGO 1.2 just came right back out.
Shame. And I mean, the rest of it was so good. There was, you know, all those crazy headshots towards Connect. I mean, it was literally 1v5, and he wrecked all of them. I mean, Matt and I thought the round was over. It was the first time I ever casted with Matt as well. So it's like, you know, we're just fooling around. You know, the round's over, 1v5, nothing happening, talking about Volvos and all sorts of crap. And then here he comes, kills 4 of them with amazing shooting, and then at the end it's just like a comedy of errors. And it's against Cent, who doesn't play in Bravado. He hasn't played in 2 years.
Yeah.
It's that moment that you've done so much, your adrenaline is going so fast, and he actually took too long to get to the bomb planting position
Yeah.
because he started shaking probably to the situation, going, okay, this is the easy one, but I can't keep my mouth still. What's happening? Oh, good, I'm just going to plant inside a flame because it's hot, you know, might as well, because a man's never hot
Yeah.
apparently.
Jeez, he nearly 1G'd there. I mean, it was just bad. So that particular award, the inaugural Hero to Zero award, Tyron, I do love you, mate. So you're a really good player. We all respect you, but that particular moment, we can't forget it. I'm sorry, mate. And it was a big game. It was a semi-final as well. ESL Africa Season 1. So yeah,
So
it
that's
mattered.
basically the wooden AK award.
The wooden AK
Pretty much.
award, yeah. I like that better than Hero to Zero, actually. Okay, you have won the wooden AK. We'll get one of those made at some point, right?
Well,
We
we'd
could
have
just
to,
ask-
I
we could
guess.
Yeah, we just asked Goliath to make one of those crates that they give away and just throw one of those in there.
Yep. So and the next one that we're going to move on to, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about this one, but I'm not going to go in order here, actually. I'm changing the order up. So I would like to present the Lifetime Achievement Award for the use of the Zeus to Black Poison of Energy, because, man, he's so good at using that particular weapon. He gets kills with it every game. It seems like it. How does he do it?
He goes to an attitude of I don't care when it comes out with the Zeus, because he knows that it's his close range weapon stronger than enough. So, and he's been practicing within real life, I guess. I'm not quite sure. I'm just going to claim that most people train, in sports, mixed martial arts. He trains with Zeus's. That's all he does. And then when it comes down to it, actually, it came to a point where he even knew that one of the patches that were released allowed you to Zeus people through the wall.
Yes, I know
And
about
so
that.
And so at that point, we thought, okay, let's just try this, because there's so many areas from cobblestone drop down all the way through to nuke through the A bomb planting wall that you could taser people. And well, he loves that sound effect. And then obviously the taser changes colors and effects during Christmas and Easter. And at the end of the day, now it's obviously the effect on the cash flow has really changed it away from being the most beneficial unit, but it's still the most exciting. And I guess he's also tired of any random Sonic Zeus's or knives.
Yeah.
Does an element of wanting to BM the other team a little bit add into it as well?
Be in the other team, you say?
Yeah, just
BM.
yeah.
No, I
Psychological warfare.
yeah, I think so. It definitely creates a psychological effect, and also for that quick change across, you give yourself a meter of a distance when your pistol's running out. That's the first go-to weapon, and for the price, it doesn't end up really costing you, especially if you're accumulating the cash flow, as he likes to do very well.
Well, there we go. So, Lifetime Achievement Award for your very own Black Poison, Robbie Black Poison DeLoca, for the use of the Zeus. Unmatched in local play with the Zeus, it would seem. And I don't think anybody else is going to be as prolific with it up drop. And talking about going up drop, the other award that we would like to present Robbie with would be the Booster of the Year award. Basically, what he's done this year is almost every time that you see a position where he could be boosted, he is boosted by energy. So I'm assuming in the comms there, it's like, guys, can you boost me? It's just, he's always up on somebody's head. He's always peeking over the top there on cash. He's always going up drop on cobble.
It's more actually of a moment of him walking into a restaurant and saying, guys, the usual.
Yeah. Kind of does feel like that.
The usual.
I must admit, I've even tapped him a couple of times on the shoulder and said, okay, don't do the boost again, because they're going to know it's coming. He times it 10 seconds later and still gets there anyway, and then still takes 3 players. So not going to argue with that at all.
So the other component of him being the Booster of the Year, would you explain that for us, Sean?
Yeah, it's the fact that I mean, when he joined Ian, I think it's fair to say they hadn't had the best of luck in finals before he joined, and I mean, he basically turned them into a very, very good team. So it's kind of a like a funny award in that he got boosted by all the players by up into little areas that allowed him kills, but he also boosted the team as a whole and made them a much, much better team going into the second half of the year.
Absolutely. So congratulations, Robbie wins too. So he's in the lead of awards if we're keeping score, which we're not. So that's so the next thing we're going to look at is let's look at the social media post of the year, because I did like this one quite a bit. Let's hope they haven't deleted them since, because I was going to take screenshots and then I thought maybe I'll just... Okay, yeah, they're still there. So good. Let's go to the browser view and have a look for our... It's a series. We'll show you the first one and then the actual post that wins the award for this year. So Domster says, just saving this for later at BVD Sonic. Sonic says, I'll bite my left nut off if Nip win. And of course, Nip won. So he got wrecked. I mean, pretty much all of us got wrecked because we didn't think Nip was going to win that tournament. I think it was IEM Oakland, if I remember correctly. And here's the other one. Sonic, I'm a man of my word at Domster. And he puts in a lovely picture that says Sonic's nut, and the artwork is just wonderful. It's majestic overall. I do think this is great. Like, more players need to be doing stuff like this, guys.
This is the strategy for Dust 2. This is how you work it along the map. If you used to plant that directly on the map, you'd know exactly what Bravado are going to do for 3 rounds in a row.
That's sharp, Adam. So, social media post of the year, the Twitterer award goes to Sonic, and he's really upped his game a lot. He used to say nothing on social media, and I think it's really important that players use it more. You meme a bit, you put out some information, engage with your fans. People love it. I mean, you could see he got 47 likes on that, and very few people get that many likes, even if they got thousands of followers. And He's I think he's on 300 and something at the moment. So go and follow him and see what he's all about, because he's really interesting on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to
Yeah,
completely agree with you there.
follow.
Yeah, I got to agree with you completely there, Mark. It's definitely down to an aspect that you're able to socialize directly on a internet basis, which is where all the gaming started. And people don't actually know the players and their personality just from an event or just from watching them on camera, especially when they go into an interview on stage, all nervous or excited or just focusing on what's about to happen or has happened. Whereas this is actually the element of the entertainment, the social side, how the teams and the players bond regardless of bravado and energy. This is Sonic versus Domster. It's all fun and games. And only on the stage is that really that rivalry that really exists. Beyond that, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I really hope more people embrace social media the way he has, and if there's anything anybody takes out of this, if you're a player, please do more of that, because that's just great. It's going to bring in more fans. More people are interested in you if you've got something interesting to say, and it doesn't always have to be some technically profound observance of some amazing thing that happened in a game, or BM against your opponent. It could also just be funny, but I like the BM too, and I'll give a special mention to Kenny for being really good at that. Yeah.
I was holding my breath saying, well, Cardi's got some good examples. Anyone wants to learn? He's got some great tweets. I love it.
Yeah, he's really good at it as well. So special mention there to Kenny, but post of the year goes to Sonic, and at least he won something, right, Adam?
I'm gonna disappear.
Well, shall we say something that wasn't online and that was actually at a LAN, in the latter half of the year. But I'm sorry, Bravado fans. I'm being a little bit too facetious here, but couldn't help it. So let's do something where we lay low energy just a little bit, because you guys are getting all the plaudits, and I think it's got to happen at some point, right?
Something like that.
Something about life of balance and things.
Yeah.
Making the force balanced and things like that.
For some reason, it doesn't want to work, though. Let me just see if I can get this to work again. Otherwise, we may have to look elsewhere. Let's just have a look quickly. Yep, I'm going to have to look elsewhere. Sorry, guys. For some reason, this clip is not the right link. So that was me who broke it, and I do apologize for that. Let me just see if I can quickly find the right link. Otherwise, we're gonna have to probably skip playing this actual piece. So maybe let's talk about it a little bit, because that's probably going to be the most helpful thing we can do. It was the portion in the season 1 grand final between Energy of ESL Africa, between Energy and Bravado, where Energy left the bomb behind, and they pretty much had the game at their mercy at that stage. It was going to go to a 5th map, and that would be decided. They had the momentum after winning the previous map really convincingly. It looked like it was their game, and it just seemed like they tilted from there. You were obviously involved with the team. What happened for the guys there in that particular scenario?
It was really a clear situation of just an unfortunate timing of miscommunication. It's never really happened, so nobody had expected it, and by the time it was noticed, it actually put everybody into a back step, and at that exact moment, everyone went quiet. I've never heard a TeamSpeak channel go so quiet for the next 30 seconds, where you even while the things were happening after the bomb planted, or after they've tried to fetch the bomb up, they try to recuperate, it was just quiet. And I think that was literally, as you say, I wouldn't call it tilting in this case. I just call it a shock. It was one of those moments of, I left my car keys in the ignition at the municipality building in the middle of town, and you can't really do anything about that at that point. And there was also no solution. So at that given time, it was okay, well, we got to do whatever we can, and nobody could really come to an idea because it happened too quickly. And there was actually communication about 15 seconds before it became too late. I think it was Domster actually came on and said, guys, bomb is in spawn. No one reacted to it, and then when I realized that it had been said as well, because I didn't even pick it up, I just froze, and I just those moments you just don't know what to say. And it was just, it became a quick joke, I promise, and it became a meme immediately within the team, and within 2 days there was a joke about a bomb in every left, right and center corner.
Well, I'm glad to hear that it actually became that, because it really was just one of those moments when we were casting it, we were just like, there's no way, this can't be true, right?
Yeah.
It was just unbelievable. I have actually found the clip, so I think I can play this for you guys. So really what this is we're calling this the blunder of the year, and we don't want to take the mickey out of energy at all. It was one of those really pivotal moments where you just looked at it and went, oh man, I really feel for these guys, because this is something that could really break your spirit. But it's good to hear that it became a joke later, Adam. So I'm glad we have you on the show to actually tell us about that. Cool. So I've got the clip. Unfortunately, I can't actually paste it to you guys, or maybe I can. Let me quickly check. Maybe I can do that. Wait. Oh, I can. Okay, good. So I'll quickly paste it to you guys. I do apologize, people who are watching and listening. I promise I really was well prepared for this, but for some reason the link broke. So there it is. If you guys wanna play it, you can just quickly queue it up. Let me know when you got it up and ready. But yeah, we're calling this the blunder of the year. It was where the bomb got left behind in the ESL Africa Grand Final in Season 1, and yeah, it was just an awful moment. We all felt bad for them, and we hope to never ever see it happen.
Oh, no, it wasn't.
It wasn't overtime yet.
It wasn't
but
overtime. Yes, this was allowed. It's what allowed BBD to get to overtime.
yes, exactly. So it was a sad one. You guys got it open?
Yeah.
Cool, ready to go. So here we go.
And he catches Cunny probably completely off guard. Baby playing with this nice angle towards the back, but Dumpster doesn't get caught off guard. He uses that angle all the time himself. He does.
I'm hoping I recognize the right part, actually, because I'm going on memory that this is the right round.
Sonic's in heaven, yeah, should be the one.
Yeah, it is the right round. But look at the time. 15 seconds. Look at where the bomb is. They've just realized where it is.
They can't get the bomb. They can't get to the site. No, they can't get to the site in time. They're not going to be able to plant. They have to go for the frag. Dumpster's going to have to force the issue here. But Sonic is still sitting in heaven. Energy. They throw the round. Oh my god. That is
disaster.
If they go on to lose this, that would be absolutely devastating.
Oh, jeez.
Just to add the commentator's curse at the end, Matt.
Yeah,
He don't want to lose this.
he really did. He just dropped the knife in there and sort of twisted. A shame.
And he said the hated words of they threw that round.
Shame. I really feel for them here, man. That was just. Oh, when I was watching that, I mean, both of us actually stood up out of our chairs, hands on our heads, because I mean, we were just like, "This is going to another map. Energy have got this. They've got the momentum. They're going to win this final. It's amazing." And they had to wait until Season 2 for it to happen. But I firmly believe that it made them stronger. And I mean,
Oh yeah.
they really
100%.
looked like they had their heads right after that. So I mean, that is how it was, right?
Yeah, it forced them back into any form of basics. If it was ever a reminder for anything, it was go back to basics at any given time until those basics are perfect. Nothing else is going to work.
Well, I'm really glad that they did come back from it. I think Bravado are not very glad that they came back from it, though, after the way things turned out the various lands this year. So there's always a winner and there's always a loser in these sorts of situations. And Energy were one of the big winners this year. But let's show a moment where Bravado were actually winners. It's in the self-same final actually, which I'll just pull up here. I mean, I don't know if you guys have got it open. This is going to be the ace of the year for us from that very final, the map before. Are you guys ready?
Good.
Yeah.
Cool, ready to go. Here we shall play said highlight.
Nice shot, nice angle there by Sonic.
Fady works it completely. Dumpster takes Destiny down, and now the site is in the hands here of Bravado. Sonic gonna push through the smoke. He does with an AWP and gets a kill.
Yeah, that was such a big play. He even gets the refrag. It's a flicks. He gets the Sonic to Black Poison. Sonic just going huge. He's looking for the 8s, and he's gonna find it as well.
So that was some really good work from Sonic. I think that was definitely a great ace, but it also feeds into one of the worst commentary blunders of the year that I actually perpetuated and got repeated and repeated and repeated. I said the site was in the hands of Bravado, but it was in the hands of Energy. Oops.
Oopsie.
So yeah, egg on my face. Every time I've seen that again, and it's been played so many times on the ESL Africa broadcast, I'm like, oh, it's such a good ace, and I totally fucked it up by saying that. Yeah. Oh yeah. But it was a good one. I think with Sonic, he's also just so calm in those sorts of situations. You saw how he pushed through the smoke a little bit there, got himself the kill, and he just landed all the kills. I mean, he's one of those guys who could honestly be a primary AWPer, and yet it's just something he picks up occasionally because Detrini's such a star.
True. Yep.
So any disagreements on that? Do you think there was a better ace that you saw this year?
I think we've actually been pretty thin on the ground in ace, like on aces. There was the Blazers one, I think it was. I forget who it was against. Might have been Ecstasy or one of the flip side lineups, where he gets that mad like 4K with the AWP and then
On
finishes the
Inferno.
last goal with the 5-7 on Inferno as well.
Yep. And that's exactly one of the one I was thinking about right now. Yep.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
Players.
Indeed, that was, and he's a really good young player. So I'm sure we'll. No, actually, it was King. I'm sorry, it wasn't Blaze. It was King.
It was
Oh,
King.
it was
Yes,
King,
it was
yeah,
King.
yeah,
Yes,
sorry.
yes.
It was King. Sorry, haha. I was right about something at least. That helps. I wasn't right in that ace, unfortunately. But like I said, I'll take personal responsibility for the commentary blunder of the year in the middle of a fantastic ace. Actually, giving the
You get
complete
your own
wrong call.
award even.
I'm giving myself an award. I mean, look at this. I'm just handing them out, handing out the medicine. So
And you get an award. And
you get an award. And under the seat, it's Oprah style, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So
Oprah President 2020, yeah?
I heard so. I mean, that is just ridiculous, guys? I mean, what? But then,
Yeah.
Trump is like, I think I can take her.
Yeah, I
What?
got this.
What?
Bring me Arnold Schwarzenegger and Oprah, and I think we're gonna have a good show.
Well, I mean, it's gonna make it super entertaining. So I'm just glad I don't live there. Let's say that.
I'm agreeing.
But anyway, moving on. We've got, I think, what is the impact player of the year here, which we'll bring up. This is Canny in the semi-final of ESL Africa Season 2 on LAN versus Limitless, when Limitless had been laying the beat down on them for a lot of the first map cash. And I mean, we were even thinking, Barry and I were casting it, we were thinking, geez, it looks like Limitless have them, at one point. And there were just a couple of key players. I remember in the first half, there was a very undramatic Domster 4K where it brought things back a little bit. And there were just a few rounds where they got back in, and after, I think it was 9-2 or something, it ended up 9-6. And then going into the second half, it was kind of like business as usual has resumed, and Limitless are taking control again until Canny decided otherwise, shall we say.
Enough was enough.
Enough was enough, yeah. I mean, you can tell us a little bit about the comms, but let's have a look at it. You guys got it queued up?
I don't have a link.
No, I don't have the link. Huh?
You don't have the link? Oh, my word. Okay,
No.
well, let me do this again. I really thought I had thought this out better, but apparently I'm a potato, but that's okay. I don't mind being a potato. I mean, you know what's under you. Mr. Potato Head, right?
Something like that.
Something like that.
You said it, not us.
Yeah, we were just holding our breath, waiting for you to get the better memes out for yourself.
I don't mind wrecking
There we go.
myself. I'm good with that. Cool. So there's the link. Timing on it, I don't think it'll actually go to that time, but it would be 1:53:01. I think it is. But well, it would say minus 142.58 on the right, because the way Facebook's player works.
Yeah, that's right.
You got it, Sean?
Yeah.
Yeah, got something like that.
Minus 142.58. We there?
Yep.
Sweet, and we will play.
I mean, what is going on here? Reminding Keops again with those UMPs just destroying that movement from Energy, but Carney now, he's down to 10. He got himself the 2 kills, and the bomb though, that is important. He has it.
And I remember casting this and going, there's no way he's winning this. 10 HP, not happening, right?
Utility to work with that he can use to maybe find himself the kill on the lower HP players. The problem is there's so many angles to watch.
Yeah, I was...
So you're
mental.
expecting Limitless to play
Crazy.
Especially because he has to hit he has to
Ooh.
hit that last bullet. He has to hit him in the head. He does it. He's like definitely.
He
gone.
has an AK, but I mean, this is
Yeah,
this is
that
critical.
exact
Carney's
moment
on
you were
3
saying
and
that 10
he
HP and he
is-
had to hit that headshot,
he's
I
got
sat
the
there, I
time.
was standing behind him and going,
Looking for him
only one bullet. It's only going to take one bullet. It's only going to take one bullet, and there it was. And that's when all the voices were lost. There was no comms whatsoever after that. No one worried him. No one bothered him. No one told him where they were coming from. Nothing. He just knew exactly what to do. And at one point, actually, we thought it was going to go into a save, and it just didn't go anywhere near that. He stood exactly where he was, and he was like, "Come at me, boys. Come at me."
Yeah, that was just magnificent. I mean, like, honestly, I didn't give him a hope. I mean, you could hear it in my voice the way I was casting it as well, like lowered voice, because I know, yeah, I mean, I want to get excited, but there's no way. Oh shit, what? Just it was crazy. It was just magnificent, and he had a few rounds like that at that tournament. On Cobble, he also had some crazy rounds around the fountain area on B site. He was just incredible at the tournament, and he was definitely MVP of the tournament overall, which I think is a little bit in marked contrast towards some of the earlier competitions in the year where he struggled a little bit if you looked at how his stats went and how the games went for him, but he really hit his peak at the right time for the team.
Yeah. Like,
Yes.
I think especially for him, given that he hadn't had good series, particularly against BVD, I think that must have given him all the confidence, doing that well in the final there.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And you said there weren't any comms after that, Adam. Like, were the guys just too hyped, or how did it go?
It was more an idea when it was 1 versus 4 that there was no comms whatsoever. So no one, normally obviously as the players are dying, they're trying to give a little bit of info, but I think everyone just got shell shocked back into the situation of, well, now we're actually on the back foot again, where we don't like to be. It's cash, it's a map we're supposed to be experienced and loving, and the comms were just dead. Then the first 5 seconds into the buy round, it kind of continued into it, like that just happened. That it happened on the stage in the middle of ESL Africa finals, on the semi-final match. How do we actually go from here? And the best part about it was nobody overanalyzed it. It just went straight into the next play, into the next play, into the next play. Nobody just thought that they were beyond godlike, that they could just do that again and again. And everybody worked off of each other, and it was the perfect catalyst to be able to take that event.
Yeah, it was superb. I just wish we had a full crowd at that point, because part of the reasons why our voices were a little lowered, because we were in a cavernously empty place with nobody there, because it was basically the middle of the night, like the show was over because of all the delays. So it was a bit of a sad one, because it was an epic game. I really wish we'd had a crowd in there for that one, because I think it was the game of the tournament.
You also would have seen a world record of losing 6 kilograms in weight while standing on stage from sweating in an hour.
Oh my word, yeah, jeez. It was a fun tournament though. Definitely got some good memories of that one particularly. So next award category. Tell us a little bit about this one, please, Prof.
Which one is it? Team of the Year?
Best new team of the year.
Best new team of the year, yes.
The one that apparently was not clear enough, so I've made it vaguer. I made it vaguer so that it wouldn't trigger people, but we made it clear to not trigger people, and that triggered people. So let's go with vague.
2018 minus 1.
Yeah. Best new team of the year is basically an award that we decided because we obviously had a couple of new teams, new orgs, in fact, actually pop up. Most of them midway through last year. Big Five and I think Goliath are obviously the two headliners here, but we had small teams like Skeletons again that came along and all the rest. So, I mean, I think I think ignoring Skeletons again because they only played ESEA right at the end, whereas Big Five and Goliath both Big Five and Goliath did pretty well throughout the majority of the year that they were able to attend. Neither team is really seen on land. Goliath did go to ESWC, didn't really do a whole lot there, but that was about maybe a month and a half after they'd gotten together, so can't really say a lot. Big Five, for the most part, I think, in my personal opinion, obviously you guys, we can have that debate, but I think Big Five showed the most growth over the year, and especially because they were consistently able to hold down that third spot, taking it away from the DC boys. I think they probably do deserve it, although there is obviously the fact that Goliath did decently as well. I don't know if they had the same level of successes as Big Five, but I mean, neither team has actually really made it to a finals yet outside of Big Five's online game against BVD, which I'm pretty certain they'd want to forget in a hurry.
Yeah, they definitely would, considering the hammering that they took at the hands of pretty much the whole of BVD there. And again, you can't really read into it too much because it's online. Problem, of course, and this is the point I was making on Twitter as well, is in South African CS, the vast majority of what we get to see is still online. So we have to take online results into account, but we weight them a little bit lower than the LAN results. The problem, though, is the fact that the LANs are so far apart in terms of time. That also affects how you can weight them, because if it was 6 months ago, a lot of changes in CS in 6 months. I mean, a lot of teams might have the same name on the tin, but aren't even the same people in 6 months. So it makes it really difficult. South African CS is tricky to analyze in that sense, because it's so very changeable and it's so very online in nature. But Big Five, in what they did play and against the level of opposition they played, they made a final this year. Nobody else did that, in that sort of premier level competition. I mean, you can debate that Damage Control made a final in Masters, but Energy and Bravado weren't there, so it kind of
Neither was
diminished.
Big Five or Goliath, though. So.
Exactly. So it unfortunately takes away a little bit from the quality of result, and therefore you weight it as less important. So, in my opinion, Big Five looked great. They looked super puggy in season 1 of ESL Africa, and they clearly did a lot of work and became a really structured and a very controlled team going into season 2. So they definitely showed progression. I think they've probably hit a little bit of a ceiling at the moment, which is probably why we've heard that Spaz is actually no longer in the team, which is maybe the other bit of news that I should probably put in the news, right?
You could have. You could have, but I mean,
50-50.
I'm fairly certain everybody knew about it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a shame for the young player, but let's see who they bring in. Hopefully, it's going to be another young aimer who can bring a little bit of fragging power to them, because they've got plenty of experience. But really, where they lose against Energy and Bravado is in the fact that they just don't have the level of talent to go aim and go against them, sort of. In a fair fight. You never want to have a fair fight in CSGO. You always want your opponent to be flashed, but when you have to take that aim duel, if the aim duel's against Sonic or Flexi, it's just it's not going to go well for you. So I just feel they got a little bit to still work on, and part of that's bringing in, I think, a player who can bring that level of aim. But who do you get? I know who they're getting, by the way, but I'm not allowed to say.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could, but
Oh, we both know. Okay, cool. Well, now we can just sort of like wink at each other and go like, "Hey, I know what you know." Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to add an element maybe for the purpose of the award, is especially when it comes down to new teams of the year in regards to any type of award system. I think a lot of it's got to do with seeing how the team progressed in the first year of operation, and then seeing what they've got for the potential in the future. And I think something that Big Five have done immediately is they've never stagnated. I'm not saying Goliath has it all, but at the top of that, Big Five now have a coach. They saw themselves getting to a plateau. They replaced the player from the decision-making process, but also they're a team that are very much and have always been really good friends from the beginning. So I think that their potential and their growth within the immediate time is maybe a less of an incline or a structure that has to be changed. But when you got a situation with Goliath that has very much a desire for succeeding, well, it's going to take a lot for Big Five to keep that position of best in the new team category.
Yeah, I definitely, absolutely agree. Geez, you're good at this sort of thing. You'd think you'd casted and been on camera before or something.
What is that? What is camera? I'm
camera. Okay, so moving on, team of the year. This one, I actually had a Twitter vote about this. So I will actually show that on the browser here for everybody to have a look at. And there it is. That was the Twitter vote. 22% of people saying they thought Bravado Gaming were the team of the year. 71% saying Energy, 4% Big Five, and 3% Damage Control. And that's pretty overwhelming towards Energy. And you got people like Tiny saying Energy, Shizzy from Aperture saying Energy. And I mean, they're coming out with good reasons. So I think it's pretty unanimous there. Unless you were like a super hardcore Bravado or Damage Control or Big Five fan, it'd be hard to say anything other than Energy right now.
I mean, the thing is, you can make the argument for BVD, especially because they dominated the first half of the year pretty spectacularly. And they never really lost the online victories that they had over Energy. But you can't take away from the fact that at the moment, I think they're 6-1. sorry, 1-6 against Energy in the last 6 maps played between the two teams on LAN. And especially because of the dominating nature of those wins, I think you can't really argue with Energy at the end of the day. Although, like I said, you can make an argument for BVD, but Energy, I think the evidence for Energy is just a lot stronger.
And
Yeah,
of course
I
you're
agree
biased, right,
completely.
Wham?
Well, I would say no and yes at the same time, but only because I guess the biasness would come from the amount of time I've spent with the Energy guys for the last 6 months rather than the other way around. But when it comes down to it, I think that that's exactly right, that when you've got a team like Bravado that was winning and top of the logs of any tournament of the country for so long, and a team comes out from the woodwork that lost the medal state last year to Bravado, changed up a play obviously when Black Poison came in, and then proceeded to win 3-1 at ESWC. They won the ESL Africa with obviously the 3-0, but then being 48-20 as a scoreline, and then they won the ESEA online 16-9. So when you take 3 in a row towards the end of from half of a year, it was never that dominating in the first half, I think, because there wasn't enough events. Whereas the second half of the year has all the majors. You know, we always look at Rage as our major determining point for who's the best in South Africa, and then on top of that, it's the elements of how the medal state event changed the team. So Bravado's team then, compared to what it was at the end, was obviously a different situation, and that change is what changed Energy into a top place, regardless of if it's the individual or the teamwork. And I guess that's what people are seeing, is that the teamwork between Energy doesn't seem to be slowing down. The ability that they're providing doesn't seem to be a fluke, and they've done it 3 times in a row. So I do think that Energy takes the Team of the Year award, especially because it wasn't expected, I think, for them to have come up so quickly and taken such a strong hold on the country's positions.
Absolutely, and the other thing that you got to factor in, I think, to me, that weights it the most towards Energy is Energy are the first ever continental champions. They are the champions of Africa. It's not just about being the champions of South Africa, which all the other tournaments are about. They're the champions of Africa, hands down. It's undisputed right now, and it's on Bravado and the other people to take it away from them. And I think for that achievement, if out of anything else, it would have been harder if they'd only won that and not won other tournaments, but the fact that they also won ESWC, which was the previous LAN as well, sort of weights it towards Energy for me. So I think Energy deserved winners, Team of the Year, and it seems like people out there agree with us. So apologies if you're a Bravado fan. I'm sure the guys are really looking to stick it to Energy this year, and we're going to see some really exciting games. And of course, Mr. Analyst over there definitely doesn't want them to stick it to Energy, but I don't know. It might make for some fun on the broadcast, right?
Yeah, I think that the level, though, of the teams improving on against each other between Bravado and Energy is so vital. And if that isn't that one team dominates and the next team dominates, then you're never going to get improvement, because you only improve by losing and focusing on where your loss points are. And in this case, the nice thing about CS is that, you've got a round by round improvement. So you can win 16-9, but you have 9 mistakes that you can go and review. Whereas when it comes down to, say, a soccer match or something that's a whole long play, it's not as easy. But at the same time, there's some interesting things that are happening this year, and we'll see as the year goes along. I'm not saying anything, but the Bravado Energy matchup is going to be different for 2018. I promise you that.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm also excited to see some overseas joins from both teams, because I've heard all sorts of rumors along those lines. Nothing confirmed, but be excited to see how either team does overseas. And the point that you made there about the two teams spurring each other on to be better, that bodes well for us doing better overseas, because it always was one team on a pedestal far better than everyone else. Now we have 2 teams that are almost, pretty much neck and neck, who are better than everyone else, and they're pushing each other to be better. So I think that's a great situation to be in.
Yeah, one extra thing to add there is also that for the first time that I know of, for the ESL qualifiers for the Season 2, I say qualifiers for the warm-up and for the, say, boot camping, but for the Season 2 finals, Energy and Bravado scrimmed against each other for the first time that I've ever heard of. And they actually maintained to do that after the event again. So I really think that's it's something that also brought upon a new element to it and a new way of improving the teams, not just at majors and finals. So I love that aspect to it as well.
That's an interesting one, because usually the big rivals who likely to face each other in finals won't scrim each other. I mean, it happens all over the world. They just won't, because they don't want to give anything away to each other. So that's an interesting one, and that's going to help them get better again, because again, like whoever goes overseas, and if we do well, that's good for all of us. It really is.
100%.
So on to the final category, which would be the one that some people are probably waiting for and some people don't care about, but we care about it, so we're going to put it out there. Player of the Year. And always in any kind of award ceremony of any kind, I mean, or even a championship of any kind that involves individuals, you look at motor racing, you never remember who the constructors champion is in Formula One, you remember who the drivers champion is. You know, in all these sorts of things, you have these sort of players, these transcendent figures that people look at and go, wow, that guy is amazing, and he's a large part of the reason why this team is amazing. Look at a team like SK. People know who Cold Zero is because he is the best player in the world, and he's one of the guys who helps their team. Of course, the fact that the rest of the team actually set him up really effectively, and he might not be that effective in another team, is immaterial. People know who Cold Zero is, and they know that he's going to be #1 in the HLTV rankings this year. That's just how it's going to be. People know who Simple and Nico are, so in the South African sense, we've got these names that people recognize, and the name everybody will recognize from overseas is Sonic, right? We got players like Flexi, JT, Detrini, Black Poison, and of course Domster. I mean, Domster was overall, in terms of frags, the highest fragging player for Energy this year in grand finals, which, I mean, would kind of say, oh, he's got to be really good, right? So where are we taking it, Sean?
I mean, I think the very first part is we'd probably have to slim it down to, at the very least, just 4 players. It would be Sonic, Detrini, Domster, and Black Poison. I think those would be on the short list. The rest of the guys either had huge spikes in performance, but generally, you know, weren't like consistently impactful amongst all of them. And I think that's why we'll take those 4, because those guys, when they played, Black Poison obviously didn't play all of the finals, but when he did play, he was consistently one of the best. So he won't have the same number of kills. I think he's actually got the 4th lowest on his team, but he's played 2 less maps, so you've got to give him a bit of a gap there. For me, the way I rounded it out was that I think, especially for Sonic and Detrini, both of them had very, very poor last two events of the year. Detrini did okay at ESWC, but nobody on the BVD side did well at ESL finals at Rage. So I think we had to remove those 2 at that point. Like, yes, Sonic absolutely wrecked everything and everyone online, and did fantastically well in the first half of the year, but unfortunately for the young man, you can't give him props when the 2 biggest events of the year, especially in the back half, he didn't perform as well as he could have. Now, we do know that he was sick at the one. Unfortunately, at this point, we can't do that. For me, Domster, I think Domster was a consistent fragger, but it never felt like he was impactful enough with what he was doing. Like, he would get the kills, but it just sometimes felt like the kills that he was getting weren't always going to help Energy win the game. So you could see him throughout the entire year. He was never like terrible in any of the events, but he never pushed them beyond. So that's why, for me, I've actually gone with Black Poison, because from when he joined Energy, outside of the VS event in the middle of the year, which basically, I think, how long was that, Wham? It might have been, what, 2-3 weeks that he was with the team at that point?
Yep, maybe max.
Yeah, so
maybe a month.
So he had absolutely no time to really prep the team for that. So I mean, they ended up losing the VS Masters event, but from then on, every single time that Energy needed a good performance, Black Poison happened to draw it out, and you could see it with that fairly famous. I mean, it's almost the 0 to Hero award. You know, like the reverse explicit, if you will, where he whiffs the first 5 shots against Bravado in the ESL Africa finals, and then just all of a sudden hits like is just unable to miss anything of the next 4. So for me, I've gone with Black Poison. I think just the sheer impact that he had from when he joined Energy, consistently good. And I mean, that's not even taking into account the fact that Energy just looked like a much, much better team after he joined as well, which was not the case before.
Indeed. It's, again, like, we can argue for certain players. Oh, sorry for I keep bumping music on. Sorry, guys. But, I mean, you can argue for all sorts of players and for and against. I mean, like, for instance, somebody like like Canny, if you look at how good he was at the season 2 finals, you could say, oh, I mean, he was the MVP of the tournament. Although the only people who called him the MVP was me and you. But I guess the award counts if it goes your way, right? And it's complete bullshit if it doesn't go your way. But I don't know. But in the case of Canny, he was incredibly impactful at that tournament. But if you look at his numbers in the earlier part of the year, it made it a little difficult to say that he would be the overall player of the year, because some of his numbers were really bad, and of course that doesn't always tell the whole story. I mean, like he was absolutely majestic in that show match, Energy versus Bravado, when Metal State was launched. I mean, he was one of the major reasons they won that as well. I mean, he had a fantastic year, but he was not the most impactful for the whole year. And as you were saying, the guy who had the most impact in the team was the guy who came in, who was absolutely unerringly consistent, who was never at the bottom of the scoreboard, was always somewhere in the middle, was always having those big rounds where he had those kills that blew it apart, either with Zeus by boosting up drop or something, or getting a crazy AWP shot, or getting some kind of read. And the fact is, he brought the tactics and the structure and the leadership to the team that they didn't have before. So he had the most impact, and he was the most consistent in doing it. And while having all those other burdens, he was one of the better players as well, which, I mean, you don't often see an IGL who's fragging heavily. I mean, the one outlier is Fallen, but he hasn't even been that good in the last year. It was 2016 where he was really good consistently. So I would agree with you there, man. And as much as I'd like to call my boy Sonic the MVP of the year, you know, he was absolutely incredible at some of the online finals, but on LAN, Energy had him pegged. I mean, they knew where he was going, they knew what he was doing, and they shut him down. And I'm sure you had a large part to do with that, Wham.
I wouldn't even say that. I think that they, excuse me, I think that they must admit the element was not once ever to counter the player. Robbie had focused the entire time on setting up your basics, setting up your defaults, setting up your play style. And especially coming from a team which was there in Bravado, he knew the mentality that they were going to take against him, regardless of how the structure is going to work, how they're going to play their players, whatever it was, just on the understanding of how they played. And based on that, they didn't play against Bravado, they played against an opposition. And I think between ESL and ESWC, it was the first two events that maybe they went into with a complete open mind that we're not playing Bravado, we're playing a top seeded team to this event, full stop. And then at the same time, when it came out with Sonic doing Sonic things, well, you had Black Poison doing Black Poison things. And as we've seen from that evidence, that when you match up the two of the best players that are currently playing, well, it gets so explosive that it really comes down to a fine wire. I would say that Sonic is, aside from that ESL Season 2 final, I would even tend to disagree that at ESWC, he outplayed with score-wise his whole team in that grand finals completely. I mean, he had like a 42 kill in the last map that they lost. So at that point, the guy that can't speak is losing his elements of communication. And aside from that, finals, I guess, when it came down to that, Energy really did have his number. And well, Black Poison came out and showed that the whole year doesn't matter because he can do it all in one go.
Absolutely. If we have to quantify it from a numbers point of view for Sonic, he was minus 23 in that ESL Africa final and kill to death. So he really struggled. And to show his level of dominance in the ESEA online final against Big Five, he was incidentally plus 23, which shows just how good he can be when he's on. But Energy did a lot to shut him down. And I mean, if we look at the overall LAN stats for the year, and just taking kills, I'm not talking about all the flash assists or any of the other things, because unfortunately in South Africa to actually compile all of the stuff means manually doing it, because there doesn't exist an HLTV to be able to do this. But the one number that I think will quantify a little bit for Black Poison, how good he's been, is in terms of LAN finals this year, including how badly they were beaten in Metal State earlier this year. Black Poison has the second best kill to death ratio of any player in between Bravado and Energy. He's on plus 20. The only guy who's better than him on LAN overall is Domster, who's plus 25. And if you consider that he's the IGL, the fact that he's gotten that many kills is just unreal. It's insane. It should not happen, but it has happened, and he did it. And for Sonic, unfortunately, he's actually sitting at -3 on LAN because of just how bad that ESL Africa final went. I think if it came down to who is the best player based on skill in South Africa, undoubtedly, I'd say Sonic is the guy right now. But if it comes down to the year overall and how things went for them, Black Poison by a mile for me.
Yeah.
I guess we could also dub, I guess, the result as the most influential player.
Oh,
of
yeah.
the year.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
He definitely win that one without a shadow of a doubt.
Cool.
It
Well,
says esports influential player.
indeed. Actually, that was originally one of the awards categories, and then we realized, wait, we're just like tapping Black Poison for all this stuff. So we'll just say Player of the Year, and but most influential player, he definitely sits right up then. I know a lot of people didn't like me saying that he was the best player in South Africa last January when we were talking about Bravado being overseas, but I think he's kind of proven to people just how good he is and how much of an impact he can have. So I don't think Robbie's got a lot left to prove anymore, except again going overseas and wrecking some faces that side. So I'm really excited to see what he does and what Energy do. So definitely, Wham, keep us posted and let us know what's happening.
Shall do.
Cool. Well, any final thoughts from you fine gentlemen?
Hoping 2018 is going to be a smashing year. It's shaping up to be, so more lands, please. More CSGO.
More lands, yes. It seemed like people agreed. I tweeted about that the other day, and it got a rather overwhelmingly positive response. People want more lands. Unfortunately, they cost more millions, I think, than most of the tournament organizers can afford right now. So let's hope we get some more sponsorship, more people watching, and therefore more lands.
Yeah, I agree, and I think to add to that element, I love to what Metal State were doing last year with Valkyrie Challenge and Matrix Warehouse Challenge and those kind of elements, bringing the newer players out. I think we're going to see a lot more untouched talent that comes out from South African players this year, especially with the progress that esports did last year. So that's what I'm really excited for. And seeing that we've covered the whole of SA, and it's not necessarily Counter-Strike related, although it is a Counter-Strike player, we have Yana Salty Monkey Toy up in China playing Hearthstone at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, she might have been playing two tournaments there if she'd actually qualified with her team. But yeah, I mean, well played to Yana there.
Yeah, she's actually auto-birthed into the semi-finals as far as she said on Twitter, because her opponent didn't show or something.
I think she was in the third, fourth playoff when I last checked this afternoon.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So actually, that's pretty good. So congratulations, sir. Let's hope she takes third place, brings home a medal. You need something, right? You need a prize. Yeah, maybe we'll see her casting Hearthstone in the future. I don't know. I'm just taking a shot at Penguin, who's our admin, of course, in Hearthstone cast. So. Penguin, you're out of a job. Sorry, mate.
Or he has a co-caster.
Or he has a co-caster, but I don't think Dib would like to hear that. So
Yeah, no,
I think I'm
say
creating
that
all
you go
sorts
there.
of trouble right now by saying this. Let me actually look. Is Penguin losing his mind? Not yet, but we're getting there. I'm sure it's coming. But hey guys, thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm going to play us out with a little bit of Black Poison, doing some Black Poison things actually. So you guys on that side, welcome to watch with as well. But thank you for joining us. This has been CS:GO Deeper, sponsored by Aperture PC. I've been Extremes. We've had Profeci and Wham here. Wham for the first time. Good to see you, man. Good to have you on the show.
Thanks very much. Loved every minute. Shot, guys. Great job, man.
Awesome, man. Any parting words there from your side?
No, not really. See you guys soon.
Cool.
And I guess from our side, SA Gamers, kick ass this year. It's a big one ahead.
Absolutely. So thank you for joining us, guys. We're going to go to playing out some rather wonderful plays from Mr. Black Poison himself. Cheers.
Play of the year 2018.
Indeed. Congratulations. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
All over the place, he's not able to get the shot in. Finally he lands one on Sonic, and that's the rifler gone.
The closer they get, the more scary they get for Bravado. Black Poison.
Whoa!
What is this? From down to 100, this guy suddenly wakes up.
Oh.
Down Sonic against the odds. Bravado have it locked down, and that's great. But good trades put back in from Energy. This is not over, and Dumpster finds one through the smoke.
And this is looking super good here for Energy at the moment. It's only elusive left, and he gets taken down. Set the tide. It looks good for them. They get themselves 2 frags, but all of a sudden Energy respond with 2.
Oh! Gets chance, he's got the shot. Oh! Gets destroyed.
There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Brand new champions of ESL Africa. Energy Sports. Amazing. What a final.